great to have Cris Collinsworth. How are you, Chris?
Good, Rich. What's happening, man?
What did you think of last night?
It was just fun. I love it when football's fun. And I've got to say, this whole year has been pretty fun. We've seen the scoring go through the roof and never more obvious than what it was last year. I think the league has done a great job this year of not overreacting to some of the social debates that happen in the United States, especially during this political season and political time. And we've really focused on the game of football in a way that I don't think's happened in a number of years. And so for me, I don't know if everybody feels that way, but I feel like the game has really been focused on the field this year. And it's just been fun. It's been high scoring. It's great personalities, great young quarterbacks. It's been great.
So what do you take out of it from last night? What can be portable for us to focus on from Thanksgiving here on out from these two teams that are at the tops of their conferences?
I mean, it looks like those big three are still the big three, right? I think you have to throw the Saints in there as well. And then there's a couple of givens. I mean, we know what's still to come, right? I mean, the Patriots are still going to make their run, and they look bad against Tennessee. And people were calling me wanting to say, is this really the real end? As when it comes to Tom Brady, and I'm like, I've been asked that question for the last 6 years every time they have a bad game. So, no, unless I really see it. Pittsburgh, I think, still obviously capable of making a run. Houston is kind of an intimidating-looking team to me right now as far as a team that could be somewhere in the surprise. But I also think that we may see defense rear its ugly head here before we're I mean, don't you feel that? Like Chicago last night I'm watching, Dallas has a hell of a defense. Minnesota's defense can kick it into gear. You can kind of just go, Houston should be able to do it. Tennessee. So somewhere along the line, we're going to get the waking dead and the zombies are going to, come to life and all that kind of stuff before we're all said and done.
Cris Collinsworth here in the Honda Insider Report. And it's interesting you mentioned the Bears. Obviously, you and Al saw them in Chicago with a huge win over the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. To me, while we're having this conversation about, you say, defense rearing its head, obviously you've got Khalil Mack and, the rest of that defense. To me, though, the offense, seeing the way that is being built there, when we saw last night, and it's a copycat league, it seems to me that that's the style that's going to be sustainable for the next 10 years as opposed to what we saw over the last 10 years is team speed, guys spread out all over the lot, a young coach dialing it up for a young quarterback who's on his first contract so you can pay the Khalil Macks to rush the passer. I'm wondering what you think, Chris.
Exactly that. I mean, you nailed it. And I think there's a couple other things, too. One, you can't hit anybody anymore, which I see quarterbacks that probably wouldn't by nature be brave that are a lot braver standing in the pocket anymore, a little braver running the football than what they've been. I've seen wide receivers who I don't think would have been going over the middle and tight ends going over the middle back in the day when you could hit them right underneath the chin and see their helmet go flying off and, getting a new set of stitches about every other game the way it was at one time in the National Football League. So they're throwing a lot of those sort of middle read, jump ball kind of things because, you can hit me in the back. That doesn't bother me. I've got a whole set of rib cage back there. That's not going to hurt too badly. And so I think that plays that back in the day, we would have gone back to the quarterback and gone, you throw that again, I'm going to beat your ass, kind of thing. And I don't think that it's that way anymore. I think guys are getting hit, but not in the intimidating fashion that takes away some of those crossing routes and some of those slants and some of those posts and middle reads and all those crazy kind of things. So it's a little different game. It's a little more offense. And this running quarterback thing, is real. I mean, when the outside linebackers, defensive ends in this league now can't go flying down on those inside and outside zone plays away from them. You have to play the bootlegs with these kids with the way that they can run. And it's more like fast break basketball. It's kind of fun to watch. I'm enjoying it. I really am.
It is fun. It is fun, Chris, especially since, again, we've just been talking about here in Los Angeles, you got the youngest coach in the league in McVay with, Jared Goff, who's playing like a lion right now and looks like Bambi, right? And then you've got Sean Payton and Drew Brees, who've been attached to the hip for a dozen years, but now playing exactly this type of offense that we're looking like without the running ability. And then an old school guy like Andy Reid, who is just, I guess, taking it up a notch from the West Coast offense with his young quarterback. That's our poll question today, is which offense would you, if you had to choose one, would you put your marker down on right now, Chris?
It's a great question. And I don't know. McVay is the young gun, and he's going to have a long shelf life, and goodness only knows how good he's going to get because he's so good right now. I mean, what he did turning that operation around, and now with receivers getting hurt, and it doesn't seem to matter. I don't think their protection was great last night, and Goff is make a mistake or two, but they just keep on chugging along with all of that stuff. But I think that at the end of the day, I think you have a choice to make. I think Goff is a little bit of the do everything, and with McVay, you definitely have Mahomes, who is, I think, the most athletic of that group that you just mentioned. And I put Trubisky a little bit in that group as well, although I don't think he throws it as well as Mahomes does. But there's something lurking in the back of my mind about Drew Brees. We had a graphic up the other day, and I don't know why. I should have known this. I vote on the MVP every year. But when I read that he had not ever won the MVP,
it's crazy.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, here's the guy that's been over 5,000 yards, 5 times, something like that. I think more than all the rest of the history of quarterbacks combined. He's been over 5,000 yards. He's a Super Bowl winner. And I think he's just kind of yinged when other people have yanged when it came to the MVP. Somebody even had better years, and maybe Mahomes is the one that knocks him out, or Gurley, or whoever it may be this year. But there's something about what's going on in New Orleans right now and their ability to create offense with those two running backs and Michael Thomas, obviously. But and when you look at the defenses involved, and I think the potential is there in New Orleans for that to be maybe just a notch above what's happening right now in LA and Kansas City. But who knows? I always say the season doesn't even start till we get to Thanksgiving. So happy football season.
I know, exactly. And, normally when somebody gets a Lifetime Achievement Award for, when they haven't won an Oscar yet, or they do finally win their Oscar to, I guess, cross streams here of sports and pop culture, it's for a movie that might not be their best ever, but it was definitely good enough for that year. This could be Breeze's best year ever, though. I mean, what he's doing is absurd. And in terms of the offense, with Sean Payton, they've thrown Taysom Hill in this mix, too. So it's not just the Payton Breeze offense of previous years. He's adding what everybody else is doing with a totally different quarterback. It is something else with Kamara and Ingram. And I've never, again, your football life's coming up, so you know what it's like running routes. You know what it's like running routes as a champion in championship seasons, Cris Collinsworth. I mean, what this kid, Michael Thomas, is doing is absurd. He could be having the best wide receiver year ever, and I understand what I'm talking about with other people, too.
Yeah, and I think that's the concern with them is, can some of those younger receivers, have an impact? But as long as they don't lose Ingram and Kamara, I think that 1-2 combination is really something. But I'm with you. I love what they're doing with Taysom Hill. I mean, this joker can fly. He can throw the football. He completed a bomb in the game we did against the Vikings. But I think that it forces you to practice other stuff. I mean, I remember my son played for Notre Dame, and they used to go in and play Navy or Army or whatever. And, they'd be on a roll and stopping offenses and playing well. And then all of a sudden, here comes the triple option. And it's like, all right, I need you guys to forget everything you know about playing defense, because now we got to do this, right? And so now you end up in the same situation when you're playing the Saints or you're playing Mahomes or you're playing Trubisky. That backside run support just can't be there because they have to settle in and play the quarterback. And then you add the RPOs on it. I've talked, we talk to every defensive coordinator every week, and they're now to the point where they go, we can't cover all this stuff. We just can't. If they get the reads all right, we literally cannot cover. We cannot cover the inside or outside zone moving to the right without any support from our backside linebacker. We can't cover the possibility of the quarterback holding on to it and running the football. And we certainly can't cover the wide receiver running a slant behind our linebacker if he steps up to play the quarterback or the inside zone. So if they really get this offense right, we can't cover it. And so they have to sort of hope that they're going to make a mistake somewhere along the way, and that through pressure or blitzing or whatever, that they force them into some bad plays, a little bit like what the Rams did last night.
Amazing. Cris Collinsworth, a few more minutes left here in the Honda Insider Report. You've got Packers-Vikings this Sunday night, Chris, in the sense that I'm seeing out there on the Twitterverse, as well as just general conversation, is that Aaron Rodgers is seeing a Monday night game like this, or what the Saints looked like against the Eagles, and that offense is in the house, and he is like John Cusack holding up the boombox, begging for that offense to come out of the house for him. What do you think he is going through right now as you get set for a big must-have for the Packers on Sunday night on that offense?
Yeah, we're down to that point of the year, which it's funny when you call games for a long period of time, you start to understand, in a way, I'm happy. I'm almost happier, excuse me, to be calling the Packers and the Vikings than two of the teams sitting at the very top, because, all right, they're already in the playoffs. These guys are playing for their lives on Sunday night. I mean, they really are. In particular, the Green Bay Packers at this point. But I do think there's a little hope there. I think this Aaron Jones, excuse me, is a guy that could be a real difference maker coming down the stretch. And I don't think they've used him well enough yet. When they find a way to flip him the ball, either on a screen or a check down or whatever the case may be, he creates some real offense. So could he be their Alvin Kamara? He might be. They haven't developed him to that point yet, but they have Devontae Adams, who is fantastic. Of course, now it looks like they're going to lose Jimmy Graham for a little while. But this Robert Tonyan, who had a 50-yarder last week, can fly. He can run. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Equinemius St. Brown, the two I hope I never have to say on the same play, are sitting there, and they're talented. But I think if you said, what could be the difference on this football team coming down the stretch, and as much as Aaron Rodgers wants to win every game by himself, and he should because he's the best player or one of the best players in all of football, if they can establish that running game a little bit more and use Aaron Jones a little bit more in the passing game, I still think this team has the ability to go on a run.
Yeah, I the other day I said, and I'll repeat it here too, Aaron Jones looks like Kareem Hunt to me. Looks a little bit Kareem Hunt-like to me, Chris.
Yeah, and he's silky too. He can weave in and out. He can get when he gets the ball in space. Now, it's not always. This is a tough team to run the football against. Although the Bears did a pretty good job against the Vikings.
Sure did.
But I do think that finding ways to get Aaron Jones incorporated in some short, quick passing game and running the ball is what they need to do.
Okay. Before I let you go, Chris, your football life Friday 8 Eastern time. Have you seen it yet, or you're just going to tune in?
I just saw it today, actually. And my wife is going to kill me because I promised her I'd sit around, but I just couldn't wait anymore.
I bet.
And it was my God, it's so honest, and it's so brutally honest. And a few occasions you kind of cringe if you
Like what? What made you like what, Chris? Give me a little hint, a little tease for Friday night.
It takes you back to losing Super Bowls. It takes you back to, the people at Philadelphia were so mad after my call the Super Bowl, questioning those 2 touchdowns and the officials called, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it just kind of, and then they show your kids saying nice stuff about you, and it makes you want to cry, and and then you feel like, oh God, they're doing a football life. How old am I now? Like, wait a minute. Now I used to be the kid among the announcers, and now I'm like this older veteran, and I didn't even play for the Dallas Cowboys. So, there's all kinds of strange things happening right now. But it was fun. It was funny. James Weiner, I hope I'm saying his last name right, is so talented. Oh my God, he gets inside your soul, and I always loved the Football Life series, and so it was an easy yes for me when they asked me to do it. But it does it is not a superficial look at what I do or what I've done. It digs in a little bit, but I appreciate it as a guy who's tried to make a living being honest over the years, and they were honest about me.
Well, you and Al are awesome, man, as you know, Chris, and I appreciate the time. Have a great Thanksgiving. I know that the studio crew's doing the Thursday night NBC Thanksgiving night game, and we'll see you on the tube on Friday night on the NFL Network with your Football Life, and then Sunday night with Packers and Vikings. I'll be settled in.
Always a pleasure, Rich. Thanks, buddy.
Right back at you. That's Cris Collinsworth at Collinsworth PFF.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.